Hello, everybody. I have a new publication announcement. My review article, Dressing for the End of Time, Nihilism, Ritual, and Nietzsche in Rick Owens' Temple of Love, the Palais Galliera, Paris, has just been published by Textile Journal of Cloth and Culture. In this exhibition review essay, I explore how Rick Owens' Temple of Love at the Palais Galliera reframes fashion as something far beyond spectacle or commodity. The exhibition stages clothing as ritual, architecture, and ethical practice, engaging themes of nihilism, endurance, and care in a world shaped by crisis. I ask the question, what if fashion no longer operates through novelty, progress, or transformation, but through endurance? Upon entering the Palais Galliera, one encounters a familiar neoclassical framework: order, continuity, institutional authority is naturally bestowed by the beautiful environment. However, this stability is immediately disrupted once you're inside the exhibition. The space becomes dark, immersive, and spatially estranged from conventional display logic. Rather than a retrospective, the exhibition unfolds as a thematic and affective environment. It is structured less as a narrative of development and more as a passage into other realms. Clothing here is encountered as part of this total environment. To account for the shift, I introduced the concept of fashion nihilism. Drawing on Friedrich Nietzsche, I use nihilism not to denote despair, but a transitional condition in which established values, particularly fashion's investment in novelty and progress, lose some coherence. Owens's work resolutely refuses fashion's promise of transformation. Instead, his garments appear temporarily displaced, worn, exhausted at times, and as if taking place after some post-traumatic event. They do not anticipate the future, they emerge as if from its aftermath. Accordingly, fashion is repositioned from an aspirational pursuit towards a practice of inhabiting a body under conditions of instability. A key formal strategy in the exhibition is the transformation of fashion into architecture. Garments are elevated onto monumental plinths, requiring the viewer to look upward. This alters the spectator's bodily orientation, from proximity to distance, also from consumption to contemplation. The garments function less as clothing, more as monuments or vestments. This shift reframes fashion as ritual practice. This is further evidenced in Owen's treatment of embodiment. The body becomes a vessel rather than a site of identity. Silhouettes elongate, obscure, and veil, and gender distinctions are destabilized through abstraction. This aligns with the exhibition's broader emphasis on endurance over expression. I situate this within what I term post-apocalyptic couture. However, unlike cinematic or speculative depictions of apocalypse, Owens does not stage collapse as spectacle. Instead, collapse is treated as an ongoing condition. The garments are heavy, constrained, and often impractical. They do not facilitate movement or escape. In fact, they choreograph persistence. In this sense, fashion becomes a material response to what might be understood as a prolonged state of crisis, one where resolution is deferred, a sartorial space wherein endurance becomes primary. Garments are presented as relics or vestments, removed from circulation and placed beyond use. The space cultivates stillness, distance, and reverence. The title, Temple of Love, is significant. Love here is not affective or romantic, it is structural. It denotes care, discipline, and shared vulnerability under conditions of collapse. This structure, however, is deliberately interrupted. A life-size sculpture of Owens relieving himself into a fountain introduces an element of objection that disrupts the exhibition's ritual coherence. This gesture collapses the distinction between the sacred and the profane. It reasserts the body as vulnerable, excessive, and material. It also functions reflexively, undermining the figure of the designer as elevated or transcendent. Finally, the exhibition engages with temporality and afterlife. Through verticality, encasement, and wrapping, Owen's garments evoke funerary practices, particularly those associated with preservation and continuity, as in ancient Egypt. Fashion here is not oriented toward the present moment. It operates within a longer temporal horizon, one concerned with duration rather than immediacy. In conclusion, Owen's Temple of Love reframes fashion as a ritual practice rather than a spectacle. As well, it's an ethical response to crisis rather than a vehicle of progress. Fashion in this context does not promise transformation. Instead, it offers a way of enduring. I am Dr. Mark Joseph O'Connell, and this is from my review article, Dressing for the End of Time, Nihilism, Ritual, and Nietzsche in Rick Owens' Temple of Love, the Palais Galliera, Paris, June 28th, 2025 to January 4th, 2026. Curated by Miren Arzalluz, director of the Palais Galliera, Alexandre Samson, head of collections, with Rick Owens as the exhibition's artistic director. This has just been published by Textile, the Journal of Cloth and Culture. Link is in the information with the video. Thank you, everyone.